Good afternoon from London. My name is Vikas Pota. I'm the founder and CEO of T4 Education. We haven't done one of these live streams in quite some time. And so we were keen to bring forward some interesting subjects that I think would benefit all of us to learn about. This week, past week has been quite busy for us at T4. You'll be aware that we announced the shortlist, the top 10 shortlists for the world's best school prizes. And it's been a whirlwind since last Thursday, where all these 50 schools from around the world across 5 different prize categories, have had immense joy and celebration taking place in their schools. So there are plenty of examples that I've shared online on my LinkedIn profile and through our other social media accounts that you may be interested in. But just for example, today I shared that there's a fantastic footballer called Cavani from Uruguay, who used to play for Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester United, who was was a very close pick for the Ballon d'Or, which is like the fanciest of prizes in football. To actually come and endorse a school in his home country in Uruguay, and it's by using celebrity endorsement and firepower that we can actually break through and make sure more people hear about these incredible schools that exist around the world. Prizes are quite interesting in that regard. There's also a school in New Delhi and the Times of India, which is the biggest and widest read English newspaper in the world, English language newspaper in the world, reported about the former Minister of Education in New Delhi for the city, having an argument with the current Minister of Education in New Delhi to take credit for under whose watch did these schools improve, because we have a school from Delhi which is in a shortlist. And surely the answer lies in actually the school should take the credit. And so congratulations to all schools for being shortlisted and for participating in the process. And please know I'm really grateful, and we congratulate you for so much of what you do, which I think is excellence. And our duty, I think, as civil society is to provide that platform, to provide that connectivity, and to showcase and celebrate your work. So many congratulations. In a similar vein, you'll be aware that alongside with HP and Microsoft, we have another prize called the Africa Education Medal that we've put in place to showcase and spotlight incredible change makers in Africa. One of the things that I'm frustrated about, if I'm being honest, is us always talking about those that have come before us from years ago that we still look up to, and there's nothing wrong with having them as role models. But actually, some of the most amazing things that are happening today are led by people who live amongst us. And so by providing a spotlight and providing a platform to them, our effort is quite simply to showcase their excellence and try to galvanize support through our platforms to accelerate their work. And so today, we have 3 such individuals who have been shortlisted in the Africa Education Medal to join us. And they come from diverse backgrounds from 3 different countries, and they do just the most incredible work. And what we wanted to use this opportunity for was to actually tell you a little bit about them and introduce you to them, and actually see if you can actually hold hands with them to further their causes and what they've committed themselves to. These are incredible leaders. They've demonstrated leadership. They've demonstrated their ability to advocate, and there's ample evidence of their impact. And that's why I believe we should be getting behind them. And that is why I'm pretty sure that HP and Microsoft are also very supportive of the Africa Education Medal. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Mary Oshunfana, JC, and I will not try to gobble up your surname. Please forgive me for that. And Sarah Ruto from Kenya. Welcome to the 3 of you to our T4 TV live stream, and what we're calling the Transforming Education in Africa, the breakout sessions, because in January we had an entire summit on this subject. And the breakout really signifies, let's break out in terms of, well, what is it that you're doing to take matters forward, to make sure every African child has the best possible chance of prospering through education. So welcome to the 3 of you.
Thank you.
Well, before we start, I also wanted, the great thing about this platform is you can see all of our friends joining from around the world. And so I just want to give some shout outs to say, and if you are watching from somewhere, wherever you're watching from, why don't you weigh in and tell us where that is? So, for example, Kay Famuz, hi from Nigeria. Well, thank you for joining, Kay. I know you're watching on Facebook. Kalyani, who's a country ambassador, is in India. Thank you so much. Mahmood is from Ghana. I don't know if you know Mahmood, Mary. We have Nora. I can't tell which flag that is. Can you? But lovely to see you here. Vivian is from Johannesburg in South Africa. So much. Thank you so much for participating. We have Tunisia being represented, which I think is fantastic, right? I think you pronounce it Unia from Uganda. Thank you so much for coming. Adriana, I don't know where you're from. I think you're from the Balkans. But if you don't mind just putting a comment where you're from, that would be great. My old friend and mentor, Marjorie Brown from South Africa. Hello. Just the most incredible educator, one of the most incredible educators I've ever met. Thank you so much for joining, Marge. Alejandra is from Argentina, and she's saying, yes, there's 2 schools from Argentina. Yes, in our World's Best School Prizes. Wonderful. This gentleman is from Nigeria. My colleague is watching from Buenos Aires. It's supposed to be a day off, I'm pretty sure, for you, Marin. But thank you for joining. George is obviously from Lebanon, as he says, and so thank you for joining, George. Forgive me, I don't speak Arabic. I don't know what your name is, but hello from Egypt. Thank you so much for joining in. Ismat is watching all the way from Bangladesh. Most incredible, right? When you see this platform and you see where people are keen to learn from, I think it's really great. Abdelaziz is in Morocco. Fantastic to see you here. Yvonne is from Kenya. Go Kenya. As someone who's born in Kenya, I'm very proud of everything that happens. And Sarah, I know everyone is, forgive the pun, but rooting for you. Ruto. And on it goes. And so as we go on, we'll have a lot more opportunity to do more of this. So thank you everyone for actually coming forward and saying where you're from. Without further ado, I want to introduce Sarah first. Sarah, you were until recently the CEO of the PAL Network. You're a Deputy Minister of Education in Kenya, and now you've turned your hand to philanthropy. Sarah, tell us about what motivates you in particular on education, and not just motivates you, but what drives you. We're keen to know. Your work is exemplary, and we've known about it for quite some time. So I'm really glad that the Africa Education Medal can spotlight what your life's mission has been. But Sarah, please weigh in.
Thank you very much, Vikas. I'm very glad to be here. Maybe I can add one other identity that I think is very important, and that is I started as a teacher and a researcher, working in the university for 15 years. So I think I have had 4 different spaces in which I have worked, and I feel very fortunate that in all of them, it has been on the same theme of education. Very early on, when I was still finding my space in the world, wondering what I need to do, I stepped on the idea of school reform and the idea of trying to ensure that every child gets a right to education came in very early on. And I'm very glad that along the journey, I met other people who had thought about this in a better way. So I did not need to start many things. We borrowed a methodology from India when I was doing what I was very incredible work under Uwezo. Tunaangalia uwezo wa watoto kusoma, capability of every child to read, not because it is the end, but because it is the conversation starter. So I think what motivates me is that I believe in the fact that all of us have agency, and we are a small speck in this universe, a very small speck in a given time. And at that given time, I think you have a responsibility to do what you can. I found myself in the field of education. I love it. Even when I joined government, I was still put in education. So I have had a love affair in this theme, and I have a belief that I can do something, however big, however small, and my passion is my life. And it is about ensuring that every child has the ability to read, because once they can read, they can own themselves, and they can own their community, they can own their world, they can be what they want to be through this very small thing. And that is what motivates me.
I mean, Sarah, you've touched on so many different points which I want to speak about. So we talk about education reform at a systems level, and you really tried at that. You know, if there was and frankly, it would be unfair for me to ask whether you succeeded or failed, because I don't see many successes around the world in that subject. But what are the key learnings that you've had on how you effect change on a systems basis?
I think it is very, very important for everybody to own that change. And this means that when you are starting about a change process, you can hear a child speaking, so you have to invite that voice. And when you're starting a particular process, put in mechanisms in which you listen to that voice and use that voice and the experiences and the context there to build this momentum. Many people will not participate in something if they feel they are not part of it and have not contributed to it. So in many of the processes that have been successful, they are the ones that began from the bottom up, then going out. And that is why when you do that, I think it is easier to bring together what matters most and use that, moving from that point of comfort to the new point of discomfort, because change is also about addressing the uncomfortable things. Not everything will be nice and cozy. And so anything that is about movement building, and sometimes it is about the passion of one or the experience of the other, and bringing that, I think that allows you to build this momentum. But it is not, it is very uncomfortable for many. But when you look back, I think anything that looks difficult in the moment often has bigger rewards. And so that is why I never shy away too much, and I do not feel too uncomfortable when we are faced with things that did not go right. Because the one thing for sure is that you learn from it. I think the biggest problem we have is we make the old mistakes. But if you make a new mistake, I think that's fine, because that's a learning journey, so to speak.
Sarah, I'm going to come back to you, but the two questions I have for you, and I know that you're a very reflective person, is I want you to think about, because the question will be, what do you think your biggest success has been, and what do you think your biggest failure has been, okay, through your work? And so I'm going to come back to you on that. So just park it for now. But I want to go to JC. JC, you know, you've done the most incredible work in Rwanda, and by leading this NGO, you have given hope to young people. You really brought a focus to it. But actually, you blew us all away recently when we were talking to you for the Africa Education Medal, where, where you know, mischievously I asked you, saying, "JC, do you know anyone famous?" And you came forward and said, "Actually, I do." And you said it with, like, you know, muted voice. And you know, when we announced the shortlist soon after, you know, Hollywood starlet Charlize Theron came out in support of you, which must have been quite amazing. JC, tell us about your work and the impact of perhaps the Africa Education Medal on you and your organization.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this platform. It's such an honor to be here with everyone, with Sarah, Dr. Mary, and yourself, Vikas. Our work, I run a youth village called Agahozo. Agahozo in Kinyarwanda means drying tears, and Shalom means peace. And this is because of the genocide we had 29 years ago, and we lost so many people, including children. And this village was built as a response to the genocide against the Tutsi. Now, it was built by an American lady, and like the work of any INGO, we heavily rely on donors and partners who believe in the work that we are doing. So now, being recognized as one of the 10 nominees for the Africa Education Medal was like exponential increased visibility, not necessarily on myself, but I think on the organization that I happen to lead. And I think this is probably one of the best avenues, best things for all of us, because it vindicates the work that we do. Having the chance to speak with, interact with Charlize Theron, the actress, and the entire team, they were like, we knew why we were supporting you in the first place. You guys are doing amazing things. And so thank you that for us for having been nominated. But at the same time, the work that we do is incredible. We take really the most vulnerable kids, vulnerable in terms of having lost parents, vulnerable in terms of being refugees from neighboring countries like Burundi, vulnerable because we have also some kids with disability. And so these are the kids who would not complete high school. I think in some of our statistics, we have more than 2.7 million young people in primary school. By the time we take the national exam, the senior six, the last year of high school, only 40,000 kids get to complete that. And so our goal, our mission is not only to drive them through high school, but also to sort of equip them with all the life skills that they need and they deserve for them, life skills, career skills, so that they can go on to the next stages of life, whether it's into a vocational training program or tertiary education, and after landing it onto a job. And this is really what we try to do on a daily basis, and we have a holistic approach to that.
And JC, I mean, I'm going to come back to you, so I'm going to park this question. I want you to think about is how do you think your work can be more systemic? So whilst you run this village, one village in a system, what is the impact that you see across the system? So don't answer that yet. I'm going to come back to you with that question. Dr. Mary Oshun, welcome. We've known each other for some time, actually. And you are the principal of Ghana International School, a very prestigious organization in Ghana that educates young children. Tell us about your work and what is it that drives you in the international education sector in particular, in a place like Ghana, which is very fast moving now. You're on mute.
Yes, the school bell kept on disturbing, so I would mute it each time it came on. Great reminder. So hi, everybody. Thank you, Vikas. Hi, Sarah. Hi, JC. And to all who are watching from all these amazing parts of the world. I did find it just really heartwarming that we have people from all over who are watching. So to get to your question about what drives me and the work that I do, when I think about the fact that for almost everyone who would call themselves educated after a period of time, somebody had to be standing in front of that classroom or, to help them get educated. That person could be a facilitator, that person could be that sage on the stage. It depends. And I've been consumed with who that person is. Who is the person that we put in charge of our little ones? The foundations are just so critically important. And I've been worried. I've been quite worried because I've met some teachers who shouldn't be teachers. I've met some individuals who are amazing and their impact can be felt in the classroom where they are. And I've been asking myself, what makes somebody a great teacher? And if I were to ask us, all four of us right now, who was your favorite teacher? Somebody's popped into your mind, right? And who was your worst teacher? Someone also pops into your mind. And if we want to educate our children and we want it to be done well, we have to be concerned about the people that we surround them with. So this has driven me in my work, not just at GIS, but GIS is like a launch pad for the rest of Ghana, the rest of Africa as well. How do we get the right teachers into those spaces? And if it's a question of partnering with other organizations, I love that a lot. I love visiting schools and other educational spaces, trying to find out what works here. Why is it working really well here? And could I then scale it up, or could I just transfer that to my particular context? Not taking things lock, stock, barrel from the West or from anywhere else, but asking ourselves, what do we need as a people? And then to design what works well, for us on the continent.
Mary, in the world's best school prizes, there's a school in Kenya actually that looks at the subject of decolonization and the Africanization and Afrocentrism in education. Tell us what you do as an international school in that regard.
Yeah. So it's been quite the journey, and a bit like COVID, where we all felt shoved into it, and then had to immediately regroup and figure things out. I think what has been happening here is we haven't intentionally said that we are decolonizing our spaces, because education, I believe, is systems, it's spaces, it's people, right? But what we have seen happening to our school is that since the 80s, when we had these coups d'etats, and a lot of families, international families, moved away from Ghana, they didn't quite come back in the same way that they were here. And even now, when they do come, they're here for a very short while, or maybe just one parent is here. So what we used to call the visible minority is now the visible majority, right? And it has caused us to really ask ourselves what we mean by an international school, because some parents will come in and say, I don't see that many international people. And I ask them, who's an international person? I am, you are. You trying to be more specific, who do you want in the school? And realizing that looking different is great, gives you that visual reminder of the diversity, right? But probably what we need more is that thought, of being internationally minded, right? The color of the skin doesn't matter as much, because you can find people who are not African or Black who are not internationally minded. So I think for us, that decolonization is happening more when we intentionally design lesson plans that force us to ask ourselves how we are all human everywhere, and how we can bring that humanity to bear on everything that we do. When we want our children to be more Afrocentric, is with a certain sense of pride that we can do it as well, right? We can do it as well. We don't always have to borrow from someplace. We probably have the capacity, and getting our children to realize that they have this, so that they can build that capacity from within themselves. So we're going through that process and understanding it ourselves, and using that to position ourselves much better as a new kind of international education.
Here we have someone say, Dr. Ashwin, a principal of GIS, is doing incredible work in establishing a strong learning foundation, which will kudos for shaping future leaders. Dr. Ruto, I come to you with the question, the very heavy question I asked you. What is your biggest success? What is your biggest failure?
It is good you gave me time to think about it. I think what I feel is a really good achievement. I'd like to draw from Ubuntu. Ubuntu, where, in a simple way states, I am because we are. And in any of those processes in which I have been able to also do something that resulted in meaning beyond me, I felt a very high sense of achievement, and I'd find that very successful. And so there are a number of examples over time, but maybe I'll give now one. And this was when we started the Uwezo Learning Assessment. This was the largest assessment, second only to the national census that would be done in not only Kenya, but in Uganda and Tanzania. And you can see I'm saying we, because the idea was seeded. It took many people. I was the implementer, trying to ensure that we had district coordinators across Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. And through putting forth a process in which many researchers, I had been in the university before, and a lot of educational research would be done in schools and institutions. But here we were saying is that we need to take the discussion of education and where the children are learning to the homesteads, and have volunteers who go to each household and assess in front of a learner, of a parent, so that the parent can see where the child is at. And so through this very decentralized process that made research accessible to many, we were able to make it owned by many. And therefore, it didn't matter whether you were in a district or whether you were at a national level, the message was the same. Are our children learning? And people had seen it. And so being part of a process of creating this army of researchers who could use evidence to inform themselves, even before it goes to national level, to tell themselves what their situation is at the household, at the village, before we go to at the nation, and before we collated this information to inform regional and international policies. I thought that when I look back, always makes me smile. And whenever I meet many of those people who were volunteers yesterday, today they're really people in various forms of, people in different places. And I see that perhaps the fact that they can use evidence, and this evidence can be important in forming their day-to-day decisions. So, and later on, even in government, when I was able to facilitate processes in which directors were able to make decisions and do their work better, that I always felt was a good achievement, to be able to, be in a space that I also, in allowing other people to be and to grow, I also grow myself. So I am because we are. I find myself because we are also finding our place and selves. What have I struggled with? You can see I'm not using the words you used, failure. Because as I said, and maybe this comes from the fact that I'm a teacher by training, there is no real failure. There is just difference. And there is perhaps maybe the timing was not right when an assessment was given. That's why you did not do well. But when you grow, you find yourself. But if I was to do something differently, it would be the fact that looking at my different identities, I am a mother, I am a wife, I am a profession. I don't think I've been able to balance the time well, to be able to respond well to my different identities. And when I look back, in the younger years, I think my children suffered most. So if I was to do something different, I would find a way in which I would involve them more in what I am doing, allocate a little bit more time to them, because they grow up and they grow up only once. And I think that as a mother who was a professional, I think my children did not get a number of things, perhaps, where you have a mother who is at home. I'm not talking about fathers. They can discuss what they do. And so I would do that differently if I was to go back. But everything else, I think, has allowed me to build up to where I am at the moment. But that I would do differently. Give a little bit more time to the family. I think it is always easy to take family time to do professional work, to go for a meeting, a social group meeting, to plan things. It's easier to steal that time away from them. I would give back that time to them.
Phenomenal. Thank you, Sarah. JC, I asked you a question about how your work becomes more systemic. Do you want to give your thoughts on that?
Sure. And I want to start with one thing. If any one of us remembers the grades you had in science or math or any other subject that we took in secondary, we probably do not remember, but we remember that teacher that inspired us, that teacher that made us feel like we mattered. And I think this is what we want to do. This is what we want of all educators. Whoever we hire at Agahozo Shalom, whether you're a landscape person to the director of any department, you must understand and believe that you want to be an educator, or you're an educator at heart. If not, we don't care about the skill set that you possess. We want somebody who really wants to inspire the youth so that they turn into agents of change. And so this is pretty much our model. This is our approach to our education program. It's a learn by doing approach. We want to build critical thinking skills in young people. We want to build curiosity, and so on and so forth. Now, as a model, as an organization, I like to say that we want to be a laboratory. We experiment different teaching methodology approaches, and we see what works. We collect data and we see what works and what doesn't work. Now we also work in collaboration with the Ministry of Education. Recently, in 2021, we had digitized our curriculum. In 2020, our curriculum had been digitized, and we were able to go straight into teaching within a week after all schools were shut down. The only hiccup is that our students did not have computers at home, so there's not much we could do to support them. And so, because of the background where they come from, so what we did then, we reached out to the Ministry of Education and said, "This is what we want to do," and I think there is something that the Mastercard Foundation is supporting, and this is where we want to go. With the Ministry of Education, we were able to look at teachers, because we know if we want to take care of the child, we first need to take care of the teacher. And so Ministry of Education supported us in identifying about 500 teachers in about 150 schools. And we brought them to Agahozo Shalom to train them throughout the entire COVID period. On curriculum digitization, teaching methodology. And this program has done wonders in all the different communities that not only close to us, but in all 30 districts of the country. And as a result, we said, this is great. So we went and reached out to the Carnegie Mellon University that has a campus in Kigali. And we said, listen, we have 500 teachers having trained, and you know how it goes with training. After a while, you forget what we've been trained about. So we want to put them on a platform where each of them can interact on a daily basis. Teacher JC has a class in taxes, and I put it up on my platform. Teacher Eunice from this other school, 200 miles away from me, can directly access this platform. And today, this is what we are looking at, a proof of concept, to go from 500 teachers to many, many more. Already, these 500 teachers are in schools that represent close to 60,000 students.
That's incredible, JC. That's incredible. Well done. I think it's a great way of thinking about systemic impact. Mary, I suppose the follow-up question I have for you, because you've spoken about teachers, is how do we improve the status of the profession? I'd love to get your perspective on that.
And I spoke, I think earlier on, I was telling you that I spoke to university. Sarah, did we lose? Okay. All right. I noticed it was just Sarah and I on the call. Yesterday, I spoke to university students in a Masters of Education program. And there was one student, it was a very small class, no more than 15 students. And one lady afterwards, the feedback that she was giving in the class, she said, I was going to quit at the end of this year. And now I've changed my mind after the lecture that I gave. And I said, which part of the lecture made you change your mind? She goes, everything, but you made me so proud to be a teacher, right? And I think restoring the status of teachers needs to start with teachers themselves. We've got to believe that we're superheroes. All right. We've got to believe that the work we do is incredible. You can't force people to give you a certain status, right? You've already got to be occupying that space and give them reason to look up to you, put you on that pedestal. So a lot of the work that I do here in Ghana, not just at my school, but at the other schools that I work at, or when I invite teachers over here, incidentally, just a few weeks ago, Maputo International School reached out to us from Mozambique, and they said, we want to visit your school. We're like, sure, come along. So they came, we had an amazing 2 days with them. And again, that question came up. I'm so proud of being a teacher. And I love that Sarah mentioned that as well. JC has mentioned about the impact of, teachers. We've got to get teachers to start believing it themselves. Because until they do, nobody else is going to. So a lot of empowering teachers to realize their worth, right? And in realizing their worth, that will come through in the way that they present themselves.
So I can't see the name of the person that's put this, but you have a friend in the Biden administration, from the bottom up and out, a policy that
Wonderful.
wonderful. Now, I want to conclude on the basis of the Africa Educational Medal, and what's been the experience so far. We would love to share some highlights. So I'm going to start with JC actually, and then we'll go to Sarah, and we'll end with Mary. JC, do you want to speak a little bit about the experience so far?
Yeah, the African Education Medal, when it came out, I was actually I was doing some fundraising work for Agahozo Shalom, and I happened to land in Los Angeles at an event, the Charlize Theron Africa Outreach Project. And the beauty of it is everything hit the social media. It was early in the morning. I woke up to it with like hundreds of messages in my WhatsApp. I was like, what's going on? What's happening? And then I got to see that he had come out much earlier in the morning, I think, in Europe and in Africa. And so it was so exciting. And then I got to sort of hang out with some superstars, and it made me look like I was a superstar on that very day. So it made me feel extremely good. I was a star for a day, but I feel like a star forever now because of this nomination.
Thank you so much, JC. And of course, the education minister of your country came out in support for you, which was quite something, right?
What an incredible endorsement from the education minister, with whom the ministry with which we partner on to do some of this work of training educators across Rwanda.
Well, let's hope he gives you some money, for your work. You can say no comment. It's okay.
No, but actually better than that. When we are working with teachers, the Ministry of Education ensures that each teacher has a laptop and there is internet at their school. So it makes our work easier. So
Fantastic.
That's all the money we need from the ministry, and we're excited about that.
Fantastic. Well done, JC. Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quite a bit like what JC's experience has been. You know what they say? Recognition is like music to the soul. So I think first and foremost, let me say what that does to you. It makes you smile. It makes you feel, wow, this is really good. And so I'd just like to appreciate, the recognition. It must have taken people who know me to nominate me, and you feel that it's good to feel that you don't just have colleagues out there, but you have friends who want to root out for you. And I think this is a good moment to say thank you to all those people. Because without them, I wouldn't be having this conversation and also creating another new network. And I connected with very many people I had not spoken to for a long time. So thank you, HP and Vickers, for making that connection, because they really came out to say congratulations, which was really great. I had just moved to a new space as a funder, and the new office celebrated me. So it offered a new welcome to my new office. Around the same time, the Minister of Education appointed me to chair a council of a university. And the appointment had just come before that. And many people were saying, you see, this is a good person. And you see, she's even been nominated in the African medal. So it has added to my CV. And that's not a bad thing. We appreciate it. So in many ways, more importantly, I think anything that makes you smile, makes you connect with others, makes the community grow is something that you should continue doing, because I'd like to see many more experiencing this very positive journey that we have experienced so far.
And of course, you were in every single newspaper in Kenya, which is phenomenal. Many congratulations to you. Mary, finally with you, in terms of how has it accelerated your work and your mission?
I think that the visibility has been great. Busting some myths too has been great. When you are working in the premier international school, people assume certain things. And so it's been wonderful to have that platform and to have people say, oh, I didn't know that your school did this. And I didn't know that you did this. And so that has been great. I think my parents, as in my school parents, are looking at me maybe a little bit differently. Oh, okay, maybe she does know what she's talking about. So that has been wonderful. I think that for my colleagues and anyone else who has worked with me, a certain affirmation, for their work as well, because I constantly remind them I can't do everything. Right. And so what little bit I do and I bring them along with me, it's really affirmed them as well. And then last week I heard from former students who were saying, Doc, what can we do? What can we do? I'm like, nothing really. It's not something that needs to be voted for. And they said, but we need people to we need people to know that you taught me in grade 3. You taught me in university. You taught me. And that just gave me this very this breadth of experience that just reminded me, you touched a soul in grade 1. You touched a soul in high school. You touched a soul in university. And that was heartwarming. So like Sarah said, it brings a smile to your face. Sometimes you can have thankless days or what seem like thankless days. So a certain reminder that the work that you do is not just affecting those right here, but it is spreading quite wide. So yeah, great big thanks for that platform. Being invited on radio shows that I thought were just for young people. And they invite me to these radio shows. And I was sharing earlier that somebody called Dance God, some friends of mine are trying to get me to dance online with him. And I'm saying, you know what, I've got 2 left feet. It's going to be utterly hilarious. But again, another chance to show everyone that teachers can be cool. They can be fun too, right? And restoring some joy in being who we are and charting that path.
Well, fantastic. And when we set up these interviews, we're meant to be 20 minutes, but we've enjoyed it so much that we've doubled the amount of duration that we were meant to speak. And I apologize for that scope creep, as it were. But it's a reflection on just the richness of your experiences that you've been sharing, and our pride at the work that you do. Put the African Education Medal to one side for a second. But given the humongous challenge of education the world over, and especially in Africa, I think I pray for more power to you, more success to you, and more energy to your work. And I hope that what we're able to do is breathe some of that into your work and your organizations and your missions, so that you fly and make sure that every single child, at least in Africa, has the best potential chance of prospering and succeeding as a result of the education they receive. So please know that you have our thanks and our gratitude. And like I said, more power to you. Thank you all. And I look forward to the next conversation with some more finalists of the Africa Education Medal later this week. But on that note, thank you all and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.